Pakistan says it is retaliating after accusing India of striking 3 of its air bases overnight, including one close to the capital, Islamabad. Both countries have blamed each other for the violence since militants killed Indian tourists last month in Indian-administered Kashmir. Pakistan has denied any involvement. At least 50 people have been killed since the fighting escalated on Wednesday. The G7 group of the world's top industrial nations has called for an immediate de-escalation and direct dialogue between the two countries. Last month's militant killing of 26 tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir has sparked the worst fighting between India and Pakistan in decades. Well, let's speak to our correspondent Arunaday Mukherjee, who is in Delhi for us. Welcome to you, Arunaday. And there's been a press conference from the Indian authorities and military in the past half hour or so. What's the latest from them?
Well, in fact, I was at that press briefing that took place just behind me in that building where the Indian Foreign Secretary, Mr. Vikram Misri, addressed the press along with 2 senior officials of both the Indian Army as well as the Indian Air Force, the same team that has been briefing the press since the developments began. Now, at the outset, India reiterated that whatever India has been doing has been in response, and it is Pakistan they accused of resorting to provocative and escalatory measures. So the Indian press conference started on that tone, essentially saying that Pakistan had attempted to violate Indian airspace using high-speed missiles, long-range weapons, drones and other munitions to target sensitive Indian military installations in multiple cities. The Indian authorities also pointed out that they had successfully managed to thwart those advances, but they also said that there had been limited damage reported at some of its military installations. They also followed up what they said with pictures that they broadcast during that press conference with timestamps to suggest that these pictures were latest pictures, and they wanted to impress upon the fact that business was as usual when it came to these sensitive air bases and other military installations. They also accused Pakistan of continuing to resort to heavy ceasefire violations along the de facto border dividing India and Pakistani-administered Kashmir that we call the line of control, which is recognized internationally. They said that they resorted to heavy shelling, which also was targeting some civilian areas, especially in a forward town called Rajouri in the Indian-administered Kashmir region. In that, they said one senior Indian government official had lost his life. What the Indian side also impressed upon in that press conference, accusing Pakistan of not just targeting military installations in India, but also attempting to target civilian areas and civilian infrastructure. They repeated that multiple times in that press conference as they communicated it to the media, that this was absolutely unacceptable and accused Pakistan of resorting to these kind of means. They also confirmed that because of the targeting of civilian infrastructure, civilians had also sustained significant injuries as well. The situation at the moment remains calm. Both countries accusing each other of missile attacks, both countries accusing each other of adopting escalatory methods.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we're seeing increasing calls for de-escalation from the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's offered to be a bridge between the two countries as well, and China as well. So the international community is sensing some urgency here.
Absolutely, because look, Samantha, we're entering into uncharted territory in many ways. This is a new phase of the escalation of the situation between India and Pakistan, when both countries start accusing each other of missile strikes. So far, we've been talking about drones, we've been talking about artillery fire along the de facto border between Indian and Pakistani-administered Kashmir. But as soon as you bring in issues like missiles being fired at each other, 2 nuclear-armed neighbors, well, that certainly is a big cause for concern and to draw international attention. What we do know at the moment is the Secretary of State in the US, Mr. Marco Rubio, has had conversations with both sides. What I can tell you about the conversation with Mr. S. Jaishankar, who happens to be the Indian foreign minister, he said that, look, both sides need to sit together and find ways to de-escalate, find methods to de-escalate the situation at the earliest. He also said the US was willing to play a proactive role in facilitating these kind of meetings if the countries would wish that to happen. But again, as we see these allegations and counter-allegations, many experts are wondering how much of a window is there for any kind of de-escalation through diplomatic means.
Arunaday Mukherjee in Delhi, thank you. Well, our reporter Davina is in Srinagar, where explosions were heard. Let's hear from her.
We are in central Srinagar, and usually at this point of time, at 8 a.m. local time, we have a lot of traffic here, but right now the city is on the edge because at 5:45 a.m. local time, we heard two explosions and they were powerful enough to shake the building of our hotel. Just 30 minutes later, we also heard three more explosions. Two eyewitnesses have confirmed to the BBC who live near the city's airport that they heard the sound of what they described as a jet flying over, and then there was a loud explosion at that airport. Now, we don't know what was targeted. We don't have any confirmation right now from official sources. We were expecting an army briefing in the capital city of Delhi at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, but that has been shifted to later in the day. Overnight, the city was plunged into darkness because there was a blackout. Electricity was switched off. It hasn't come back. And we have seen this even yesterday. But we overnight also heard reports of drones and attacks at the border area, the line of control that divides Kashmir between India and Pakistan. We can confirm that at least 3 locations there have been targeted and has been in the intense crossfire and shellings that have been reported there. For now, at least in Srinagar, the situation is tense and we are waiting to see what happens during the day and get some more official information.
Well, earlier I was joined by Hussein Haqqani, a former Pakistan ambassador to the US, and he gave us his analysis on the tensions between the two nations.
The last 4 days, there has been an escalation despite the fact that both India and Pakistan keep saying that they do not want escalation. It seems that both sides want to have the last word. The terrorist attack of April 22nd was something that disturbed the Indians, legitimately so. They felt that they have been having many terrorist attacks for the last 3 decades and they need to do something about it. When they did something about it, it was not the end. Now, Pakistan wanted to retaliate to that. In between, we've had drone and missile exchanges that have definitely been escalatory in nature. And the traditional pattern that these two siblings born on the same day in 1947 as independent countries keep fighting and America comes as nanny to stop them from fighting didn't actually hold. Hopefully now, President Trump has decided that he's not going to have this hands-off attitude, and that might bring some sense to the table.
Yes, I mentioned a moment ago that Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, had offered US support to start constructive talks. What's your sense of whether that offer will be taken up then?
Well, hopefully it will be taken up and it will de-escalate the current situation. But if anybody is expecting a resolution of the problem, that's not going to happen. India says that the real issue is Pakistani-sponsored and Pakistani-supported terrorism. And it cites a string of attacks that have taken place both in India and in Jammu and Kashmir over the years, for which it holds Pakistan responsible. Pakistan's response is that India also has an internal problem, and some of these attacks are because of that. For example, this latest attack was very far from the Pakistani border, and so far, India has not been able to find the people who are responsible for it. So India has a problem that it must address itself. In the middle of it all is the concern about nuclear weapons. The world doesn't want these two countries to fight and reach a point where either of them is compelled to use nuclear weapons. Will there be talks that will satisfy both sides, India's concerns about terrorism and Pakistan's concerns about the resolution of the Kashmir dispute that has been unresolved since 1947? I don't think that's going to happen. And so we might have de-escalation now, but we will have a similar crisis when next time there is either a terrorist attack inside India or Pakistan's leaders feel that they have to rally the nation around the flag by saying that Pakistan is under threat from India.